Hello, welcome to Thumb the Scales, Chapter 2, The Birds. Trigger warning, the campaign may contain mature or difficult topics, though nothing adult or explicit. Your party consists of Comet, Wren, and Windbreaker, and last session you began your career as adventurers by exterminating giant rats for Glowkindle Plum Brew. After your first day of adventuring, you return to Bardol's Tavern for a nice hot dinner. Today's special, Brine Julian lizards. As the evening wears on, more and more sailors come in for Bardol's signature salt ale, and the tavern fills with raucous chatter and drunken singing. Your rescue cat, Deathfang the Vengeful, is now more like the bar cat, begging patrons for food and being well rewarded. The barkeep, Bardol, walks over to the table.
Are you fellas looking for jobs? You could become part of our waitstaff in exchange for room and board.
Wait, says Comet. Are you sure you don't need a musician? Bardol still remembers the mediocre performance of earlier in the day.
Maybe one day, but not today. You could be a waiter, take it or leave it.
Can we get paid as waiters? Comet asks.
You get room and board, don't push your luck.
Everyone agrees to be part-time waitstaff, with training set for the next day, with Billy, Bardol's son, who also happens to be the teen whose tips Windbreaker stole earlier in the day, though he's none the wiser. Suddenly, a sandpiper flies in through the window, screaming for help. She's a small bird with brown and white feathers that are out of place and dirty. She lands right on your table and says,
"Are you adventurers?"
Comet immediately replies, "Yes."
"Oh, good! I am Tiptail. I come from Nestor Isle and I need your assistance."
You ask what for, and Tiptail explains her situation. Nestor Isle is a small island off the coast where the sandpipers stop every year during their migration.
"We've never had any issues sharing resources with other birds. This year, though, there's not enough food to go around, and the island's overrun by blue-footed boobies. Please, if you help me, I'll give you,
She notices the forks on the table.
more of these thingies, and all the fish scales you want."
Comet is a bit reluctant at first because of the lack of money involved, but Wren thinks they should help just for the sake of it. Besides, she's curious to see what Nestor Isle is all about. Windbreaker wants to go with whatever the new friends are up to, so everyone agrees to help.
"All right, spread your wings and let's fly over."
Says Comet. We don't have wings. We can't fly.
"How are you gonna get to our island, then?"
There are no ships going to or from Nestor Isle because all the residents are birds, and transient at that since they're only stopping along their migration path. You need a boat to get there. Luckily, Comet recalls one of their crewmates, Burl, mentioning that his old guild is in Saltwood, and maybe Comet can milk the connection to get a boat. Comet also knows that Burl was kicked out of his guild before he joined the Blue Moon Pirates, though he was never super clear about what happened. He just said he was kicked out for not doing things by the book. You go to the Saltwood Shipbuilders Guild and meet with a gnome named Philip. He's tall for a gnome, and skinny with a paunch and a pout. His clothes and hair all covered in sawdust, and he sneezes constantly. Comet approaches and asks to borrow a boat for free, name-dropping Burl. Philip seems surprised that Comet knows Burl.
"Oh, Burl? That's you! He's an old friend of mine. How do you know him?"
Comet gives a vague excuse, and Philip lets it go. Meanwhile, Windbreaker sneaks off into a side room that appears to be a small apartment, and loots it. Philip is a bit reluctant at first, but ultimately considers Burl an old friend, so offers you a tiny beat-up dinghy, which is all you need to get to the relatively close Nestor Isle. Before you go, Comet asks, "So, what exactly did Burl do to get kicked out of the guild?" Philip shifts uncomfortably.
"Oh, that's you! Well, he used to be the treasurer of the guild, but we found out he was stealing money from the guild. Isn't that terrible?"
Comet becomes nervous because he's a pirate, and obviously accustomed to the idea of stealing money. "Oh, wow. That's terrible. That's a terrible thing for him to do."
"That's true! I know, right?" Philip waves a hand at you all. "Anyway, take the dinghy and get going."
You all get in the boat, Tiptail standing on the prow to guide you. There's a thick mist about the island. Tiptail says.
It isn't normally foggy like this. I can only blame it on the boobies.
Before anyone can ask how the boobies would cause any weather phenomena, you hear a commotion. It sounds like flapping wings and ruffling feathers, whistle-like laughter and cheering. As the shore finally comes into view, the dinghy scratches against the coarse rocky sand. Beyond the small strip of sand, there's a small wood with skinny but strong trees and lots of berry bushes stripped bare. Odd birds waddle around on vibrant blue feet. They've made a big mess of the island, clumps of stuck-together feathers rolling around like tumbleweeds, sticks with leaves still attached strewn about, clam and mussel shells scattered, and worst of all, poop everywhere. It smells like seafood that's just about to go bad. The biggest booby looks up in surprise. She's at least 3 feet tall.
Intruders! Get them!
Wait, Comet shouts. Perhaps a testament to the bird's intelligence, they hesitate and stop. We don't have to fight. What's your name? The head booby ruffles her feathers.
I am Crapper Supreme. What do you want with our island?
Well, Comet casts a glance at Tiptail, who is hiding in the dinghy. You guys should share the island with the other birds. Surely there's enough to go around.
Get them!
Crapper Supreme shouts again. The birds charge, waddling awkwardly towards you while flapping their wings in threat displays. Wren freezes some of the goons with her ray of frost. Windbreaker takes a swing at a bird and misses, after which the bird says, "Lame." In Windbreaker's defense, Wren calls back, "Lame." Still offended, though, Windbreaker beheads the bird with another stroke. Comet reluctantly joins the fight and gets sprayed by Crapper Supreme's Supreme Poop Attack, which is so sticky that they can't move. Windbreaker is disgusted and helps free Comet. Soon enough, all of Crapper Supreme's birds are defeated.
You don't understand. We're only here because of the dreams.
What dreams? Asks Wren.
The dreams! We have our own home on Kitos, but the dreams get us there. Horrible dreams. Of ghosts and untimely migration. The worst dreams. Our home is haunted.
Wren thinks they should follow the lead, and Windbreaker agrees, but Comet is reluctant because there's no money in it, even if it nags at their conscience to ignore some people, or birds with bowel problems, in need. Meanwhile, Tiptail approaches cautiously.
Oh wow, you defeated them! Thank you!
She gives you a bunch of old silverware, mostly forks, and a bundle of downy feathers tied with string. Crapper Supreme watches intently.
Oh, I see. A reward, she says. Chase the ghost from our island and I'll give you each a fish dinner advance and a beautiful beachfront property.
See, says Wren. There'll be a reward then. Let's check it out. Comet reluctantly agrees, despite Crapper Supreme crapping all over him, since they figure they can sell the beachfront property for more gold. Windbreaker asks Crapper Supreme a question, perhaps suspecting a trap. Wait, you're not mad about... and gestures to the beheaded bird from earlier.
Oh, Stu?
Says Crapper Supreme.
Nah, he was annoying anyway.
But before they take off in their dinghy with Crapper Supreme, Comet turns to Tiptail one last time. Where'd you find these forks?
Oh, they washed up on the beach.
Comet searches the beach for more treasure, but comes up with nothing. Wren picks up a seashell from the island as a souvenir, a pretty scallop, and Windbreaker follows suit. Comet strums a tune about how they hate this adventure in order to heal the party up a bit, and Wren and Windbreaker exchange friendship shells. You take the dinghy back towards the mainland, aiming for an island called Kitos. Somehow, the fog is even thicker now than it was around Nestor Isle, and there's a cold bite to the sea breeze. Crapper Supreme shivers.
It's never this cold this time of year.
It still smells like seafood, but it's ranker and more dense, like dead fish has been left out in moist weather. The closer you get, you start seeing little puffs of your breath. When you reach the fine sand, the dinghy lurches a little and slides onto shore with almost a hiss. Immediately, you see a strange pylon standing up from the sand, like a giant icicle. Behind it, there's a dense forest, and you just catch a glimpse of a cloaked figure disappearing into the wood. You carefully approach the pylon, but before you can get too close to it, it glows with silver-white light and 2 ghosts fly out of it. The ghosts are white and nearly invisible, with skull-like heads and long, gnarled fingers. Wispy fog clings to their tattered white robes. Immediately, Comet hides behind Ren because he's afraid of ghosts, and Windbreaker hides behind a nearby crate and starts shooting with their short bow. Each time a ghost is defeated, another emerges from the pylon. You start aiming for the pylon, with Comet overcoming his fear and running up closer to hit it with melee attacks. The ice is very clear and smooth on the surface, but inside it's full of cracks and crevices. It's almost blue in color, and frost forms on your eyelashes just from being near it. After just a few hits, the pylon glows bright again, before melting into water and soaking into the sand. Instantly, the air becomes warmer and the fog dissipates. Crapper Supreme is thrilled.
Ah, you did it! You fabulous people!
Comet is not entertained, however. Thanks. So, where's this beachfront property?
Right over here!
Crapper Supreme leads you not 50 feet away, where there are 3 nests made mostly of encrusted poop.
3 premium nests! I made them myself!
Windbreaker is disgusted and slinks off to loot some crates. Comet is stunned, and all they can do is laugh a little in surprise. Of course they're nests. Why did I think... Oh man.
What? You don't like them?
Crapper Supreme seems offended. Ren says, well, we have to get going.
Oh, don't worry. I'll guard your nests for you,
Crapper Supreme says.
No one else will sit in them until you return.
Ren says, thanks. When she and Comet turn around to leave, they find that Windbreaker has found some old fishing supplies, including a worn-out rod and some rusty hooks. You return to Bardol's with your second adventure under your belt, and a strong sense of foreboding. Where did that pylon come from? Who is the mysterious figure in the cloak? What was their goal? And who's going to stop them? Thank you all for watching. Leave a thumb up if you enjoyed. Check out the social media of my lovely players below. Subscribe to see more of the campaign, and I'll see you in our next session. Bye!